Hello, thank you for tuning in. Frustration, a fitting title for this particular episode. First, I need to apologize. I'm sorry if my channel title or Facebook comments were misleading. This isn't really a performance channel, at least not yet. While I would dearly love to be able to lay down a professional sounding track for posterity, the skills that I had as lead trumpet of the William and Mary Band back in '66 have atrophied in the 55 years since graduation. This old man with a horn is attempting to gain some of that skill back, and my channel is intended to reflect that effort, kind of a work in progress channel, if you will. My end goal is to perform a good rendition of A Trumpeter's Lullaby. You can check that out on YouTube and hear Al Hurt, Doc Severinsen, and even Wynton Marsalis play it, and you'll see what I'm headed towards. I think I can get there, but it's going to take a little bit of work. My plan is to record other episodes and songs along the way of increasing difficulty as my skills hopefully improve. Exercises first, starting in the next episode, but I'm also going to throw in a couple of songs, for example, When Sunny Gets Blue. I've been working on that and it shouldn't be too far behind. Finally, I'm recording on an old iPad with whatever microphone happens to be in the bottom of it, so quality might suffer as a result, but hopefully any progress that I can make would be discernible. Frustration. Yes, that's exactly what happened when I first started. I cleaned my horn back in mid-November and I tried to play, and something was just dramatically wrong. I couldn't figure out what it was. The problem wasn't simply a lack of lip control. That was to be expected. It, like the rest of me, has gone through a lengthy period of what I might kindly refer to as diminished muscle strength and flexibility. Now, the problem was that when I did manage to produce a note, it might or might not be the wrong note. The valve fingerings that I knew absolutely were correct would produce bad, off sounds. As Chloe might say, what the heck bananas? Well, today I'm going to explore what was going on. I get that if you were expecting me to play, this might be frustrating for you. I'm not meeting expectations. I understand that, and I certainly take no offense if you bail and wait for episode 3. In fact, I suspect I'll never know. This YouTube stuff is really for teenagers, not old men. At any rate, my problems were caused by some simple things that I'd never learned. If you have an interest in being a musician, understanding them may be helpful to you in your journey. First, a shout out to Terry Stewart. He's a friend, a talented musician, and has guided me through the dark and stormy night to safely reach the shore. Well, that may be a bit over the top, but he was very understanding as I grappled with questions that I barely knew how to ask. To start with, a normal trumpet plays a range of roughly 13 notes. It could have a couple go below this, could have a couple go above, but basically 13 notes with sharps and flats added in on a 5-lined staff. It's called the G clef. You can tell it's a G clef by this squirrely looking thing on the end that kind of looks like a string bass, perhaps. And a clef is just a way of designating a portion of a larger range of notes that goes above and below, as you might find on something like a piano. When I was being taught the trumpet, we didn't really focus on the names. We might have 1 or 2 or 3 C's or A's in the mix, but you only had one note that was right there, and it had a very specific valve fingering combination. And together, when you played the note with that valve fingering combination, you produced a unique sound. And what I would do is I would associate that unique sound with that valve fingering and that position within the score. It got to the point after years where when I looked at a score, I could instinctively hear the note that was expected to be produced, and I kind of instinctively knew the fingering of the valves as well. Last fall, cleaned the horn, put it to my lips, gently blew a G. Well, not so gently maybe. That first problem is tone control. I'm not controlling the lip properly as the air is going through. That I can work on, I know that. All right, but the G sounds fine, so I'm okay with that. Next, I want to play an A. Well, that's the next step up. So a little bit tighter lip pressure, depress valves 1 and 2, and get the A, which is just slightly above the G. Whoa, still lip control, the note's cracking, but what's a real concern is the pitch is way up. I'm up too high. It shouldn't be anywhere near that high. So what the heck bananas, as Chloe would say. Well, I did figure it out. The problem was I wasn't playing a C. I wasn't playing a G. I was playing a C, a much lower note. my mental image of what the sound should be when I produced a G on that particular scale, taking a nosedive. So it was totally out of whack with the reality of the situation. So how did that happen? Well, I figured out the cause. Organized religion. Well, maybe that's a bit overstated, but for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been singing bass in my church choir. The notes appear to be the same, but they're not. So when I look at bass music, and this indicates that it's a bass clef, ignore that. I see this note, and in my mind, I say, that's an E. I know what an E is. I know what it sounds like. But for 3 or 4 years in singing with the choir, my perception of what that note is, the sound of it, got a lot lower, okay? So that it has slipped down. And not only slipped down, it slips out of phase. This is an E here. No, it's an E here for the trumpet. But in singing bass, it's a G. So it's totally whacked. Well, the good news is what I've lost through lack of use, I can regain through practice. And it is coming. I am making progress, and it sounds a lot better. At least to me it does. So we're getting there. The next thing up is something called transposition. Now this is really weird, and it doesn't come in play for the normal musician. I took lessons for over 10 years and never knew any of this stuff. I didn't need to, because what I did was I played the music as it was written, as it was presented to me in the score. And if you do that, any of the transposition concerns are handled by the composer or arranger. The reason it came up for me in this case is I'm looking for something to play, something to practice. It's not just da 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 da. I want something that's fun to play because I'm going to practice a lot to try and get that skill back. So I'm coming up with songs and things off of YouTube, and I'm trying to get accompaniment with YouTube or playing the same song that's being played there, and everything just sounds horribly out of tune. I couldn't figure out what it was. Is my trumpet bad? Is something wrong that the trumpet is out of tune? Is it out of whack? Is mechanically something wrong? With Terry's help, I figured out, not that it was out of tune, it's out of key. What I did, now I don't really understand how this all came to be, but back in the day, something happened, and there's a difference in tuning techniques. And apparently it all goes back to the days of Johann Sebastian Bach. And so we'll put the blame with him. But at any rate, what the deal is, if you have certain instruments, they will play the music that is there, and the note will sound of a particular frequency. And some instruments like the piano, guitar, trombone deliver the expected sound, the expected frequency of the sound. And A is 440 hertz. That's a particular sound. But other instruments such as the trumpet, clarinet, tenor sax will produce a totally different frequency. The B-flat trumpet, for example, produces not 440 hertz when you play that note, the A, but it produces something 339, 389 or something like that. Doesn't matter what it is, it's different. And because it's different, the pianist playing the A, the trumpet plays an A, and the sound clashes. It doesn't go together. So what you have to do is you have to change the music the trumpet is playing and actually give them a note higher so that when they play that, the transposition difference, they come out playing the same sounding note. The trumpet plays what's on his score. The pianist plays what's on their score. The notes will sound the same. The transposition is really just math. Once you know the native difference, the differences don't change. I've actually done my own transposition work, thanks to Terry's help, on When Sonny Gets Blue. I had a piano score. I took that piano score, transposed it for trumpet, and now I can play it with a guitar backing group on YouTube, and the actual sound sounds pretty good. At least I think it sounds pretty good. That's in an episode not too far down the road, but another day. So at any rate, where we are now is the big ponderables have been solved. I now know the problem with my hearing the note and being able to project that. I know the problems that were caused by transposition and how to avoid that. I know the problem with my lip, how to avoid that. See that a little bit sound a little crackly and fuzzy? Needs some work. It's not there. I'm not there. But I know what the big problems were. I'm past those. Now it's a matter of practice. So hopefully in the next episode, I'll show you how that's going with some of the exercises that I picked out from a new book called Essential Elements for a Band. Really kind of a neat book, and I recommend it for anybody just getting started. But that's next week's lesson, or next lesson whenever you get to it, a few days from now. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I appreciate your putting up with my dissertation, if you will. But I just feel it's important to understand each step of the way what has happened and where we go from here. So thank you for tuning in. See you next time on The Old Man with a Horn.